The 14th Year of Chenghua. Chapter 132. Iron Guarantee. Young Master Shen was crude and talentless, yet he luckily had a good father. Shen Kengxiu hoped that his son could become a mighty dragon, not only bringing Shen Si wherever he went but also having him enter famed academies to study whenever he was busy with work. It was all in the hope that his son could be influenced by it, and repent his crooked ways. Prior to going to Balisho Academy, Shen Si had gone to the slightly more famous academy in Nanchang Prefecture. No one had really been able to bear a student like him, and Consul Shen didn't have the cheek to make his son remain there, so he brought him to Balisho, expecting that after being removed from that bunch of hooligans, Shen Si would be able to calm his mind and study hard. However, he had been destined for disappointment. While at Balisho, rather than repent his ways, Shen Si had instead become acquainted with a wayward rich boy like Su Sui. They shared the same stench, immediately hitting it off like blood brothers that has been separated in their past lives. All who went to school knew that. Regardless of whether it was the ancient or current times, as long as there are people, there would be vagrants. When people converged together in the same place, they would form groups who thought alike and each group would found the other objectionable all day long. The wealthy younger generations headed by Su Sui found Lin Zhen unsightly, feeling that despite him clearly being from an official's family, he had drawn a clear boundary with them, as if he was so high and mighty. Of course, Lin Zhen had found Su Sui unsightly as well, making them all typically hate to see each other and not get mutually involved. Had Su Sui been an average merchant's son, he would have only kept his dislikes to himself, never daring to get on Lin Zhen's case whatsoever. After all, Lin Zhen's father had been the Jian's balancing magistrate. That post might not be much to look at in Nanchang Prefecture, but in Jian Prefecture, he was a snake in his natural habitat. However, Su Sui was not an average merchant's son. His father, Su Bin's former supported, had fallen, yet he had quickly climbed onto the big tree that was the present court's head cabinet minister. The Wan group's name could scare people to death when spoken of, so of course, Su Sui would not fear Lin Zhen, the son of a mere 6th rank, and had thought all day of ways to make life harder for him. After Shen Si's arrival, Su Sui had regarded that as finding a friend on the same path. By pure coincidence, Shen Si had learned of the grudge between the Lin and the Shen families from his father, growing even more unhappy with Lin Zhen. The second Su Sui spoke, the two had hit it off immediately, always thinking of how to trip up Lin Zhen. The latter was not to be outdone, making the two sides quickly become like water and fire. On the eve of the institutional exams, Lin Zhen and Su Sui had gotten into a verbal argument which had ended up developing into a group scuffle. Since Lin Zhen had typically behaved well in front of the academy's teachers, he had been the first to complain to them, which meant that while Su Sui and Shen Si had received some punishment, Lin Zhen had gotten off completely free. Ever since that incident, the two had held a grudge that wouldn't settle, hatred in their hearts, and had been waiting a long time for a chance to retaliate. By happenstance, the institutional exams had been coming up. Unless they became possessed by some god of literature, nothing could be expected from Su Sui and Shen Si. They were destined to not pass them, but Lin Zhen was different. His schoolwork was normally decent, so acquiring aspirant honors ought to be no concern, the difference would only lie in what ranking he got. In light of this, Su Sui had thought up a cruel idea, planning to have Lin Zhen take a massive tumble in the institutional exams. He had first made Shen Si go ask for the exam answers ahead of time from Shen Kengxiu, but he naturally failed. Shen Kengxiu had refused to tell his son anything, spitting dog blood lectures upon his head. This failed plan had birthed another. Su Sui and Shen Si had especially found a public area that Lin Zhen passed by on the daily, then sent two people there to pretend to have an incidental private conversation where they casually mentioned that in Qingfeng restaurant there was a typing deist, who had specially been giving people good tips with efficient results. The speaker had a motive and the listener had the will. Had Lin Zhen genuinely thought his own skills to be enough, he would have probably paid it no attention and not been enticed, yet it had stayed on his mind. Unable to resist the temptation, he had gone to Qingfeng restaurant to get to the bottom of things. Shen Si, who was pretending to be a typing deist, had said a slew of nonsense to him, and ended up selling him the great achievement words. After that, Lin Zhen had felt that him alone buying it wouldn't do, because once an issue arised, he alone would be caught for it. Therefore, he had passed this information on to a few other students that he was closer with, thinking to himself that even if this came to light, a group could not be persecuted and he would definitely be all right. In Shen Si's view, that was actually a good thing, as not only would this tripped up Lin Zhen to completely ruin him, and he would also make a fortune for himself. 100 taels per person, with 16 people in total having come to buy the information, had netted him a total of 1600 taels. His father's yearly salary wasn't even that much. How could he not grin wide out of happiness? Since he had wanted to mess with Lin Zhen, he couldn't have just left things unfinished, and accepting money was just supplementary. After that, Su Sui had made Shen Si use his father's name to intimidate and lure those evaluators into agreeing to cooperate with them. That was only the first step, however. After the institutional exam roll was released, Su Sui and Shen Si had immediately released information saying that everyone on the top 20 list had cheated, and after that, the situation turned massive. Their original intent had only been to reduce Lin Zhen to a laughingstock, making it so that he would never be able to participate in Imperial exams again. Shen Si had never imagined that this catastrophe would be so great that even his father would end being upswept into it. As was known, Su Sui was not well read, but he was really great at having malicious ideas. With Shen Si's brainlessness, he must have led him by the nose the whole time. As soon as Lin Zhen's tragic death had happened, Shen Si had some afterthoughts, then realized that the situation had gone beyond his control. Following a lot of hesitation, he had to steel himself to tell his father all of what had happened. At that time, Shen Kengxiu had already sent a memorial requesting that the court strip these scholars of their honors when Lin Zhen's incident occurred immediately after, which had been an unexpected twist that made him felt uneasy. Then, his son had unexpectedly run off to confess everything to him, making him so mad that he started blacking out and nearly spat up blood on the spot. Sons were supposed to be superior to the father, yet his had specially come into being to bring harm to him. How could he endure this? And, what could a possible solution be? He had almost lived his full life and only have one son like this. If something happened to Shen Si, then the Shen family line would be cut off. Had he been able to toughen his heart and beat his son to death, this would have all been done with. When the time came, he could hand the body over, give the court an explanation, and he could win himself a beautiful reputation for placing justice before family, ending the matter there. But how could he do that? All he could do was clean up the mess for his son. Facing his father, Shen Si had wept bitterly as he spilled everything, not daring to conceal anything. He only said that Lin Zhen's death had nothing to do with him, that every single thing he had done was with Su Sui. Most parents in this world, no matter how much they resented how disappointing their children were, would always foist off their shortcomings onto others. In spite of being a consul of education, Shen Kengxiu was no exception. After hearing Shen Si's confession, it wouldn't have been possible for him to be any more furious, yet he had also felt that this matter could not have been done without Su Sui masterminding and instigating it. There was no way the slow Shen Si could have done it. Now that something had happened, there was no sense for himself and his son to be snared while the Su family would get away free. Remembering the Su family's connection to the Wan group, Shen Kengxiu had felt a stroke of luck, believing that they should be able to undertake this. So, he had personally visited them to discuss with Su Bin. Su Bin hadn't expected that his son would have the gall to enact such a calamity, either. Still, with the Wan group's backing, he had indeed been unworried. Thereafter, having Shen Kengxiu send the 5 evaluators free, then telling him to obstruct the imperial ambassador as much as he could and that he should insist that Li Zhen was overly worried that his honors would be stripped and hung himself. At that point, Shen Kongxiu had no other option but to act according to Su Bin's instructions. He had planned it out long ago. If Shen Si bore the charge of colluding with the evaluators to peddle information to the exam takers, what awaited him was not a beheading but an exile of 3,000 li away. However, if Shen Kongxiu threw obstructions while the case was being handled, making it so that Tang Fan couldn't find anything, he would be dismissed from his post, at worst. He felt that using his future career in exchange for his son's life was an acceptable exchange. Also, in order to prevent anything from happening to Su Sui, the Su family would definitely do all they could to hinder Tang Fan. Hence was why, like what Shen Kongxiu had said before, he really wasn't helping his son avoid responsibility. With Shen Si's brains, there was no way he could have thought up such a sinister plot, nor stir up such a huge disaster. He had been an accessory, at most. If they really wanted to speak of the mastermind, they should be talking about Su Sui, son of Su Bin. After hearing all of this, Tang Fan was calm, not having any sort of special reaction. What you're saying is that the deaths of the evaluators had nothing to do with you and your son. Indeed. I was subjected to an assassination attempt the night I came to Jian, nearly losing my life. The group that wanted to kill me used the same weaponry that caused identical wounds on the evaluators. According to you, this all must have been done by the Su family. Shen Kongxiu went quiet for a moment. Because you asked me for the evaluators then, yet I had already had them go, I worried that you might get my son to speak of them. I went to find Su Bin to discuss countermeasures. He told me not to worry. I didn't expect that with a turn of my head, I would hear that they were all dead, but whether this was ultimately related to him, I'm not too clear. Everyone in the hall looked at each other. Magistrate Fan felt that it was too late for regrets, thinking to himself that he had managed to come out what excuses not to come here tonight, he wouldn't have learned of the inside information of this case now. When he held that welcome banquet for Tang Fan, the reason he had invited Fang Huixiu and Su Bin was because of their strong supporters. Fang Huixiu was unimportant. A few years before, he was a nobody and only rose in prominence and became an upstart after his daughter had become the second wife to this province's widowed envoy of education. However, Su Bin was different. The big ship he relied on was the Wan group, and every day that consort Wan went unfallen was a day the group wouldn't fall. Nobody was willing to offend such a force. If Tang Fan refused to pursue this to the end due to fear of the Wan group, all present tonight would basically witness Mr. Ambassador's incompetence. If he wanted to go against the Wan group, they, as bystanders, would inevitably be implicated. How could someone like Magistrate Fan, who only wanted to be a peaceful official, keeping away from the slightest bit of trouble out of fear on typical days, follow Tang Fan into these troubles? Luckily, Tang Fan was extraordinarily good at understanding others, and had no intention to make them stay. After listening to Shen Kongxiu to the end, he told everyone else, "It's gotten late, you should all head back. I can take care of what comes next. Remember to have Lin Fenjiayuan's body checked over well, without the slightest bit of oversight." As if receiving amnesty, Magistrate Fan quickly asked for forgiveness, then quickly pulled Ji Min, who appeared to have something he wanted to say, and prepared to leave with him. However, Tang Fan said from behind him, "Wait." Fan Yuezhen jumped out of his skin. When he turned his head, his smile was uglier than a sob. "What other commands do you have, sir?" "Leave the Shuntian prefecture's men who came with you, then go to Milarch Tan to borrow 100 troops to come over and surround the Su residence." The other was agape, tongue-tied. "Sir, I'm afraid that's not appropriate." "What's not appropriate?" Magistrate Fan was too embarrassed to admit in public that he was afraid of Su Bin, only able to tactfully say, "Should we not investigate this matter further? You must not draw such a hasty conclusion, just in case surrounding them is a mistake." If it's a mistake then that's my business. I'm not making you go with me. The magistrate wept, thinking to himself, when Su Bin sees people from Shuntian prefecture, how will he not know that it's me? Tang Fan was not pleased. An imperial ambassador was assigned to handle a case, twisted logic has caused an injustice, and we are acting first, sending a memorial later. What are you still hemming and hawing about? Are you afraid of offending a paltry merchant? But behind that merchant is the Wan group. You might not be afraid but I am. Magistrate Fan was unable to speak of all of his grievances when Ji Min added oil to the fire. Sir, if it isn't easy for Mr. Magistrate to act, there are dozens of bailiffs in Luling's bureau that can be transferred over immediately. This humble official is willing to put in all of my meager efforts. Comparing the two, who was superior was immediately apparent. With no other option, Fan Yuejin was forced to say with a pained expression, "Forgive me, sir. This humble official will go." He thought of how Chen Luan's backer had been no worse than Su Bin's, yet he had still fallen to Tang Fan in Suzhou. Evidently, Tang Fan's support wasn't bad, either. Neither side could be offended, the only sufferer was a small fry like him. He left quickly. Tang Fan turned to Shen Kengxiu and said, attempting to assassinate an imperial ambassador, even silencing the evaluators, over a personal grudge, is a horrifying behavior that heaven would find hard to tolerate. Are you willing to go with me to arrest Su Bin and his son, Consul Shen? Aware that this was to make him testify against those two in their presence, Shen Kengxiu said, I'm willing to cooperate with you. I only ask that you help get leniency for my unfilial son afterwards, sir, so that he can keep his life. Where was that ever nagging, obstinate and unreasonable Shen Kengxiu of before? It was clear that everything he had done before had only been to muddle Tang Fan's line of sight and divert his attention. What a shame it was that it had all ended up being for nothing. Tang Fan sighed. You knew of all this long ago. From the start, why bother doing those unnecessary things? Shen Kengxiu smiled bitterly. It's always been said that a failure to raise a son properly is the father's fault. When have I not wanted him to make something of himself? And is there not another saying that a parent's heart is all-encompassing? When you have children, Master Tang, you will understand. Shen Si is indeed guilty of a crime but not to the point of a death penalty. When I send the memorial later, I will make the truth clear. The other cupped his hands. Thank you. However highly he had regarded himself before, he now lowered himself for the sake of his son. This could be described as a sad event. Tang Fan shook his head, declining to comment further. Magistrate Fan worked quick enough. In no more than a Shishan's time, Mil Arch 10 was located. Mil Arch 10 was garrisoned in Jian, and knew a thing or two about the Su's backers. Once he heard that they were going to encircle and raid them, his reaction was similar to Magistrate Fan's, a little hesitant. Sir, this is a matter of great importance. Why not report to the court, then act on their judgment? Do the Su family have 3 courts worth of elders, or 4 generations worth of meritorious officials? Tang Fan asked, displeased. Even an emperor breaking the law will be punished like a commoner. I only showed up here for exactly as per the court's appointment. Mil Arch 10 looked awkward. Sir, I won't hide it from you. It's said that the Su family being so deeply rooted in this area stems from not only their slight reliance in court but because they're keeping one thing hidden. What thing? An iron guarantee. Every single person was startled, with even Tang Fan as no exception. Iron guarantees were the death-exempting gold tokens spoken of in written drama, originating from the Han Dynasty. In this dynasty, when the realm had settled, the great ancestor had bestowed iron guarantees upon meritorious subjects that had helped him obtain the land, which had totaled to 42 families. During Yang Il's time, due to the battle at Jingnan, he had also bestowed many guarantees to subjects. Truthfully, only 1/2 of it had gone to the hands of subjects, while the other halves had been hidden inside internal departments. Whenever one needed to be used, the two would be combined into one for proof. Did the iron guarantees exempt one from death? Maybe not. Those that obtained one at the start of the dynasty had lately been pared down a lot by the great ancestor. Still, if it had been successfully passed on to future generations, it was a safeguard. Even if those descendants were degenerate and the family declined, in light of the iron guarantee, local officials would be too afraid to pressure them too much. They're a merchant family. Why do they have an iron guarantee? Tang Fan asked. I heard that their ancestor was a slave of Duke Dinguo. Because of the bravery he displayed in the Battle of Jingnan and because he took a hit for the emperor, he was bestowed an iron guarantee. He was later set free, so he left the Duke estate and migrated here. Duke Dinguo had been the youngest son of Suda, the Ming dynasty's founding great general. That part of the origin story was quite long and best unmentioned. Mil-Arch 10 didn't elaborate on it since everyone present knew it well. Hearing this, Magistrate Fan was even more hesitant. Sir, if that's the case, it would be better to consider this at length. Shen Kungziu, hands in his sleeves, watched them all be indecisive. The corners of his mouth were slightly drawn, and he didn't speak, wearing a mocking smile. He seemed to be saying, see? Aren't even all of you afraid of the Su family, too? Sir, since the Su family won't sprout wings and fly away, it would be best for the other Imperial ambassador to arrive, Ji Min urged as well. In that way, you won't bear responsibility alone, or have the gains not be worth the losses. His remarks held goodwill, but Tang Fan shook his head. Matters of today must be finished today, lest more ideas will be had during the long night. None of you need to be afraid. If anything goes awry at the time, I, alone will bear the responsibility, not implicating you in the least. Truth be told, that the other Imperial ambassador was standing by his side, but that was not suitable to speak of right now. Everyone took him as being too stubborn to listen to persuasion and surpassing another to act by himself. They felt that he might wish to take sole credit, so as to avoid the other ambassador sharing in the risk after he came, thus spreading out the merits. Still, as an ambassador, if he insisted upon the arrest, all anyone could do was obey. Even so, Mil-Arch 10 really didn't want to be the bird that poked his head out. Sir, tonight is the double 7th and each household has gone to Lantern View. More staff is needed to patrol and defend the city. Manpower is lacking on this humble one's side, and I fear that it will be difficult to fulfill your request. Perhaps Magistrate Fan and Magistrate Ji could allocate people from their bureaus. The Su family are mere merchants, they would probably be too afraid to resist. Magistrate Fan automatically cursed him out on the inside as he thought, you're too afraid to go, so you pulled me out to be your shield. What kind of logic is that? You've spoken wrongly, Mil-Arch 10, he answered. Since they dared to send someone to assassinate Sir Tang, they must have a good backer. Those assassins' martial arts were so strong, even his bodyguards were unable to beat them. Furthermore, those in the bureaus are weaklings. As I see it, it would be better for you to bring more men with you, else we won't be able to catch them when the time comes, instead having losses and turning into a joke. Those assassins failed in their ambush and suffered heavy injuries. It was only because those evaluators were powerless that they had any easy successes, the other argued. Moreover, he's going to arrest people, not fight a decisive war. If those assassins dared to openly attack, wouldn't it show that the Su family was revolting? They shirked responsibility off to each other. Were these ordinary times, this would be a good play worthy of a marvel, but Tang Fan had no patience right now. In that case, neither of you need to go. Both Mil-Arch 10 and Magistrate Fan were caught off guard. Magistrate Ji, will it be an issue if you go with me? Tang Fan asked. This humble official is duty-bound. Please give the command, sir. Ji Min quickly answered. Clothes were better new, friends were better old. When things had come to a head, an old friend was really reliable. You are indeed both loyal and courageous, Tang Fan said with a satisfied nod. After this official will send a memorial to get you credit. Let's go. Consul Shen, if you please. He didn't look again at the other two, leaving the Lin residence with Shen Kengxiu. Lu Lingzi, Lady Jiao and the rest naturally followed after. The left-behind Magistrate Fan and Mill Arch Ten exchanged a look, feeling a bit regretful. One regretted that he had just offended an Imperial ambassador and the other regretted about how he shouldn't have come into these muddied waters tonight. Had he known in advance, he would have pretended to be sick and dying. Seeing that the others had since gone far off, the two had no choice but to steel themselves in following after. Everything else aside, if Tang Fan sent a denouncement upwards, they would not be able to escape blame. In any case, if they said nothing in front of the Su family and just watched, that would be fine, right? One group of people with separate calculations speedily came to the entrance of the Su residence. It was quiet in the vicinity. It was unknown whether everyone had left to lantern view, or had just gone to bed early. Tang Fan immediately saw two big, hanging red lanterns, two vermilion doors, and two stone lions, giving off a broad aura of majesty. This was indeed a rich merchant's household. After 2 or 3 generations of business, if one could maintain that and not decay, or if someone in the family could take up an official's post, they would cultivate a bit of a luxurious aura. Since Ji Min had set his mind on following what Tang Fan was doing, he couldn't shrink back in the thick of it. He went up to knock himself. Not much time has passed, the main door didn't open but the smaller side door did. The one inside poked his head out and upon seeing the scene of a big crowd of troops outside the door, he couldn't help but be startled. You are all. This official is the Luling County Magistrate. On orders from the Imperial Ambassador, we've come to arrest Su Sui and bring him to justice. Ji Min said darkly. The doorman was arrogant. Hearing the words Imperial Ambassador, he not only wasn't the least bit scared but instead frowned and said, My master isn't here. Please come back tomorrow. Ji Min was angered into amusement. Never had he heard before of picking a good time to arrest someone. Talk less drivel. Open the door now. Tang Fan glanced at Shi Ming. The latter understood, stepping right up and throwing out a kick. The doorman collapsed backwards in pain, and Shi Ming went through the small door, unlatched the gate from the inside and opened it. Somebody come. Somebody. Thieves are breaking in. Thieves are killing people, the doorman started loudly shouting. The rest of them were both angered and amused. Lu Lingzi thought to go and block up his mouth only to be stopped by Tang Fan. Let him holler. The doorman's shouts speedily attracted the Su family. Lanterns lit up all over the residence, one after the other. Many servants carrying clubs rushed out like a torrent, only to see a large group of people from the government. Everyone was shocked, unsure of what to do. What's going on? A middle-aged man came out of the crowd, his voice quite imposing. Steward Su, they said they're going to arrest the young master, the doorman shouted. When he saw Shen Kengxiu beside Tang Fan, Steward Su's complexion changed slightly and he clasped his fist towards Tang Fan. Master Tang, I presume. Tang Fan didn't return the courtesy, only saying, have your young master come out. What crime has he committed? Please make that clear, sir. Tang Fan looked to Shen Kengxiu and the latter said, colluding with examining officials and beguiling the exam takers, resulting in fraudulence of the institutional exams. Steward Su just laughed. Your statement is ludicrous, Consul Shen. My young master was not on the honor roll last time, nor amongst those scholars suspected of fraud. If he colluded with the examiners, why wouldn't he get honors for himself, first? Knock it off, Shen Kengxiu said mildly. This incident is an adversity for my Shen family. My son will not be able to escape responsibility but Su Sui instigated him, plotting from start to finish how to fraud the exams. There is no escaping that crime. I advise you to not bicker about it." The other sneered. "An official really does have two mouths, and logic spouts from both of yours. If you want to arrest people randomly, just do it. To be honest with everyone, our master is not at home right now. He has been invited to the capital by a certain gentleman and I'm afraid he won't be able to come back for half a month. If anything is wrong, please wait until his return to speak of it. This lowly one cannot act as the owner here. We're here to arrest someone, not to have you make decisions," Tang Fan said. "If you don't step aside, don't blame me for using diplomacy before force." He raised his hand slightly, and archers lined up behind him, their arrows pointed at every member of the Su family. The Su servants had never encountered such a thing before. Seeing this, they promptly took several steps back, panicked expressions on their faces. No matter how arrogant they weren't rebels and did not have the courage to fight against the government. Steward Su hadn't expected Tang Fan to be this unyielding. He clearly knew that their family had a deep connection to Cabinet Minister Wan, yet he insisted upon an arrest. An official as stubborn and tough as this was practically unheard of. However, what he hadn't thought of was that if Tang Fan was afraid of offending the Wan group, he would not have contradicted Chen Luan in Suzhou. He gritted his teeth. Recalling the explanation his master had given him prior to leaving, he said loudly, "Bring the iron guarantee." A servant carefully walked over with a sandalwood case. Steward Su opened it. Illuminated by a candle that shone like daylight, there was half of an iron guarantee inside, carved with an inscription whose characters were inlaid with gold. An authentic piece, an iron guarantee bestowed by Yongle himself. After so many years, it was still brand new, presumably having been carefully maintained by the Su family. Even though they had long made mental preparations, Magistrate Fan and the others' faces automatically twisted, and they simultaneously looked towards Tang Fan. Seeing that everyone was scared, Steward Su was a bit smug. "I must let you all know that our Su ancestor established a great merit, and was bestowed this iron guarantee from the Emperor. Ever since then, we have abided by law for generations, never violating taboo. We use it today not to deliberately go against an imperial ambassador but because our master isn't present today. Therefore, I ask that you view the guarantee's surface, wait a few days, then speak of all this when he returns." Why did he want Tang Fan to wait a few days? He didn't say what everyone was thinking, that Su Bin had definitely gone to the capital to ask for help. If Tang Fan went home today, this situation might change by then. Had Steward Su not brought out the iron guarantee, Tang Fan could have arrested people just fine. Now that it was out and shown clearly to the audience, if Tang Fan persisted in seeking detainment, when word of that reached the capital, others could say that he acknowledged no monarchs, and had fabricated this gargantuan crime. Why bother? Magistrate Fan thought, inevitably having a bit of schadenfreude. He had said long ago to think harder about this, yet Tang Fan hadn't listened, insisting upon coming over here. Was that not refuting a sizable reputation? It was hard to get off a tiger one was riding, wasn't it? Young people were too impulsive. At this current scenario, everyone felt that Tang Fan was unable to get out of this. Ji Min, ever magnanimous, said, "Sir, this humble official recalled at the last moment that I have something urgent to report. I request that we head out. How about we let them go for now, and come back tomorrow?" Hearing this, a mocking smile appeared on Steward Su's lips. However, Tang Fan said, "Iron guarantees are not sacred decrees. Were this an ordinary situation, this official would give them face, but the Su family is now under suspicion of conspiracy. Does such a matter have to wait for Su Bin to return and handle them? Wouldn't that be the biggest joke sliding across the land? Is his status higher than that of the courts?" Huh? Everyone was startled. Conspiracy? What conspiracy? Why was conspiracy being dragged in here? End chapter.